Am I the jerk for not making my son forgive my brother after he was uninvited from his wedding? Posted by you/Leo Bastian. 6 months ago, my son Leo, 14M, decided to cut off my brother Jack, 46M. Now my mom, brother, sister-in-law, and other family members want me to make my son forgive him to keep the peace. For a little bit of context, I, 46M, am a single dad. My family has always helped me in many ways, mostly babysitting when Leo was younger, and even before my son was born, we were all very close. We all live relatively close to each other, so we've been able to keep in touch with weekly gatherings, spending the holidays together, etc. Everyone loves my son, and my son loved them back. However, my brother Jack was always my son's favorite person. Back when my son was 3 to 4 years old, Jack and his wife had more flexible jobs than me, think freelancing versus a 9 to 5, so they always volunteered to look after Leo, something he loved. Almost every month, they would take him to the zoo or the aquarium, or they'd even go camping with him. As my son grew older, he started to develop the same interests as my brother, like video games, photography, and music. When Leo was 9, he told me he wanted to have the same career as his uncle. This is all to say, they were extremely close. Last year, my brother informed me that he and his girlfriend, Mary, were getting married. I knew that neither Jack nor Mary believed in marriage, so when I asked them about it, they told me it was all Karen's idea, my sister-in-law's mom. Because Jack and Mary didn't care much about the wedding, and since Karen was paying for it, they let her plan everything, from the venue to the food, music, etc. Karen decided to plan a destination wedding at a fancy resort. In July of last year, we received the invitation, and it was addressed to both me and my son. I even had A+1 if I wanted. As soon as the website went up, I tried to make a reservation for our hotel room. I should clarify that I had to call the hotel to make my reservation because the link wasn't working, and I really couldn't risk not getting a room. When I received the email confirmation, it said room for 2 adults, but I didn't think much of it and just assumed it was an error due to the language barrier with the hotel staff. I also bought the plane tickets for us around the same time. Fast forward to January, less than a month before the wedding, when my sister-in-law called me, crying, saying that Karen had made a mistake with the venue. Apparently, the resort was for adults only, so they didn't allow anyone younger than 16. My son was 13 at the time. I asked her if it would be possible for Leo and me to stay at another hotel, but they told me the whole resort was child-free, so my son wouldn't even be allowed to attend the ceremony or the reception. I was disappointed, and I told my sister-in-law I'd talk to my son about it. I knew how excited he was about his uncle's wedding, but she insisted that both she and Jack wanted to tell him in person. Honestly, my son was devastated. He started crying as soon as he was told he wouldn't be able to go. He pleaded with them and even offered to give them all of his savings so they could move the wedding. After 30 minutes of this, my sister-in-law got frustrated and just told him that he was being selfish and that this day wasn't about him. Leo eventually apologized and went to his room. After the wedding, my son just stopped talking to my brother. If Jack sent him a message, Leo would just ignore it unless it had something to do with me. For example, he would only reply if Jack asked him to tell me something because he couldn't reach me, etc. At our family gatherings, Leo would only respond to small requests like, "Can you pass the salt?" or "Help grandma with the plates," but he would ignore my brother if Jack or Mary tried to start a conversation or ask him about school, etc. A month after the wedding, Jack and Mary offered to take him on a special vacation during spring break to make up for the wedding, but my son just ignored them. He later told me he didn't want to go with them. It was heartbreaking because I knew how much he wanted to go to that place, and I wasn't able to afford it yet, but he stuck to his guns. Something similar happened on Leo's birthday. He asked me if I was planning to throw him a party. I do it every year, and when I said yes, he asked me not to invite his aunt and uncle. I tried to convince him to invite them because they're family and they were really sorry, but he just said that if they didn't want him on their special day, he didn't want them on his. My brother was crying when I told him he wasn't invited. However, things came to a head this past weekend. We were at my mom's house, and the topic of Leo's university came up. My mom asked Leo if he was still planning on going to the same university as Jack and told him that he should start planning for that, but my son replied that he wasn't interested anymore and had chosen to study something else. Then my mom said, "I thought you wanted to be like your uncle," and my son just said, "Why would I want to be like him?" At this point, I intervened and told Leo he didn't have to be so rude, but the damage was already done. Both my brother and sister-in-law heard what he said, and they left shortly after. Last night, my brother texted me, saying I was a jerk for letting my son continue with this grudge, and he even accused me of being jealous of their relationship and said that's why I wasn't doing anything to fix it. I just told him these were the consequences of his actions and that this was 100% his fault for allowing his piece of crap mother-in-law to plan the wedding when she obviously hated my child. He hung up on me. My mom and some other family members think I should force my son to forgive my brother so we can all move on, claiming there was no ill intent and it was just a small mistake. But I don't think I should. My son was clearly hurt, and he should be allowed to heal and forgive them only when he's ready. So, am I the jerk here? Relevant comments. Commenting about the family conversations with Jack, Mary, and Leo. His response was rude because of the tone, not because of what he said. He said what he said, using a very specific tone, to get a reaction out of his uncle. That's why it was rude. He wasn't just responding to the, rather inappropriate, question asked by Grandma, he was acting up. He was trying to pick a fight. Trust me, I've heard that tone many times before. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I understand why he is hurt and angry. I have respected his boundaries and helped him navigate this as best as I can, but that doesn't mean I have to accept him picking a fight every chance he gets. As for the conversation, I didn't include my reactions because I didn't consider them relevant. Paraphrasing, of course, it went something like this. Mary, we made a mistake, and you won't be able to go to the wedding. Leo, but why? You invited me. I want to go. Mary, the place where the wedding is taking place only accepts adults. You can't enter. Leo, I don't get it. Can't you make an exception? Me, they can't. It's not up to Mary and Jack. Remember when you tried to get a part-time job at the pub, and the owners told you they can't have children inside, let alone working there? It's like that. Leo, can you get married somewhere else? Mary, we can't. We already paid a lot of money for that place. Leo, I can give you my savings. I have X. Mary, it's not enough, and it's not just us who spent money. All the guests already spent a lot of money, and they don't want to lose it. Leo, my dad has money. He can give you money so I can go. Please, I want to be at the wedding. It's not fair. Jack, I'm sorry, Leo. But we can make it up to you. What do you say if we take you to Greece after the wedding? You've always wanted to go. Leo, getting more and more upset, I don't wanna. I wanna go to the wedding. Why don't you want me there? Me, Leo, it was a mistake. They wanted you there, but we all made a mistake, and we didn't realize sooner that there was a minimum age. Leo, it's not fair. Why did they invite me then? I want to be with my uncle on his special day. Mary, raising her voice, this is not our fault. It just happened, and you need to let it go. I'm sorry you can't be there, but you need to stop being selfish. This is my special day, not yours. Then Leo broke down. Like I wrote in another comment, I tried to console him and just shot Mary a shut up look without saying anything at the moment. Jack did tell her something, but I didn't hear what he said. Once he calmed down, Leo said he was sorry and asked me if he could go to his room. Mary and Jack were apologizing, but Leo didn't even look at them. I followed my son to his room to make sure he was okay, and he asked me to leave. I went back to the living room and talked to my brother and sister-in-law. Me, WTF is wrong with you? You have no right to yell at my son. Mary, I'm sorry. I'm too stressed. We've been fighting with my mom about this for 2 months. Me, I don't care. I told you on the phone he would be disappointed, and you made it worse. Get out. Jack, please, op, she didn't mean it. I'll make it up to Leo. Me, I said I don't care. Get out. Then they left, and I just went to check on Leo. I don't have a photographic memory, so I don't remember every single word that was said, but this is the gist of what happened that day. Op on Leo's mother and where she was in all of this. My ex and I got divorced when Leo was 2, and she decided to move back to her home country. We kept in regular contact for a few years until she remarried. These days, she only calls on Christmas and his birthday. Op on his interactions with Mary's mother. I haven't interacted much with her outside of large family gatherings, but she's the type of person who always complains about kids running around or how she can't drink freely because there are kids in the room. She also made some rude comments about my sister having too many kids, and she only has 3. I asked Jack several times if Karen did this on purpose, but he insisted it was an honest mistake. I'm just not sure I believe it. Op on how long his brother had been with Mary. For the record, my brother has been with Mary since they were 22, so she has always been around. Op adds an edit to his post. I'm going through all the comments, and I just wanted to answer a question I've seen about 10 times now. I did not go to the wedding. I didn't want to leave my son alone while most of the family was away, and it just didn't feel right to go to the wedding after what happened. Update 3 weeks later. So, I've received some messages asking for an update. I appreciate everyone who took the time to comment and send me messages. Some may have been a bit harsh, but I deserved it. Thanks for slapping some sense into me. The short version is that we'll stop going to family events for a while. I talked to my brother, and he will respect my son's boundaries, and he also explained what really happened. Above all, Leo is doing much better now. Here's the longer update in case anyone's interested in the details. Mom and sister. The short of it is that I informed my mom that both Leo and I would stop going to family gatherings until things calmed down and, more importantly, until he felt comfortable again. She was understandably upset, but I think she finally understood how much she had been hurting Leo. What surprised me was that my mom told me Jack had become depressed, so she was worried about him, and that's why she was so insistent that Leo should forgive him. I basically told her that if we forced Leo to forgive my brother, we risked pushing him away from us. As for my sister, she was also sad when I told her we'd stop going to family gatherings, but she said she understood. However, she suggested we make our own weekly tradition so the children can still hang out, and that's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. We decided my nibblings would come to my house one week, and then Leo would hang out at hers the next. So far, it seems to be working, and Leo is happy with this arrangement. I think it helps that he isn't being pressured by the adults expecting him to talk to his uncle. Jack and Mary. The weekend after I posted here, I texted my brother, asking him to meet me so we could talk. I had told him that I wanted to speak with him alone so Mary wouldn't be present. Jack immediately apologized and said how much he regretted what he had done and the things he had told me. He confirmed what I already suspected and said he was stressed because of the constant fights with Mary. He mentioned that he had considered divorce because of how bad the fights had gotten. I may seem cruel here, but I basically told him that I didn't care about that. What I wanted was for him to tell me the truth about what the hell had happened. Jack maintains that he didn't know about the venue being child-free until last November. However, like many of you suspected, Mary had known for quite a while, maybe even the whole time. Apparently, this all started a few years back when Jack and Mary took Leo to the beach. While they were playing, my son accidentally called Jack Dad before quickly correcting himself. From what Jack told me, it was a small mistake, like when you call a teacher mom. Leo was embarrassed, but Jack just laughed it off. The catch? Jack's mother-in-law, Karen, and father-in-law had joined them for that vacation, and they overheard Leo when it happened. When they came back from their vacation, Karen went ballistic, claiming she was triggered by some random kid calling Jack Dad, knowing that Mary couldn't have children. Mary had tried to explain it was just a misunderstanding, but Karen became extremely toxic and abusive toward Mary and started making demands, such as not inviting Leo over when Karen visited, etc. So when Jack and Mary decided to get married, and since they initially just wanted to elope and not have a party at all, Karen manipulated Mary and convinced her to let her plan the perfect wedding for her only daughter. Mary gave in because she was sick of several years of emotional manipulation and just wanted to keep the peace. So Karen hijacked the wedding and purposely chose the child-free venue. Mary discovered this when the venue was booked or shortly after, but she didn't say anything because every time she tried to argue, Karen would play the victim and so on. Mary claimed that she had tried to negotiate with the resort for an exception to be made so the children could attend the ceremony/reception, even if they stayed in a different hotel, but the manager stood firm on the policy. However, as the date got closer, she became more anxious until she finally admitted the truth to Jack in November. According to my brother, Mary exploded at Leo because of the constant bullying and manipulation from her own mother, and she also felt extremely guilty for letting things get that far. For his part, Jack said that if he had found out earlier, he would have stepped in and canceled the wedding rather than exclude Leo and my sister's children. But by that point, many people had already booked their flights and hotel rooms, so canceling wasn't an option. In the end, I told my brother that none of that excused the way they had behaved, especially his wife. She was a 40-plus-year-old woman picking a fight with a kid. She had yelled and called him selfish when all Leo wanted was to offer the little he had saved so he could be part of Jack's special day. I reminded him that Leo looked up to him and considered him his hero, and he had let him down. He had shown Leo that he wasn't important to him the way Jack was important to Leo. I also told him that I would continue supporting Leo and going no contact and that I would be going low contact with him myself. He asked me for a chance to apologize to Leo, but I told him he had already apologized. All he could do now was wait to see if one day my son would accept his apology. Jack seemed hurt, but he told me he would respect our wishes and give us time and space. Leo. As for my son, I apologized for not standing up for him and forcing him to meet with the family every week. I told him that he could decide what he wanted to do with that part of the family going forward. He seemed reluctant to stop going, but I let him know that I would support him no matter what and that I wouldn't be upset. What made me happy was that Leo suggested we stop going to the family every week and instead spend more time together, just him and me, doing some of the things he used to do with my brother. Last week, we went to a vintage car show, and next week, we're going to watch Wicked. I'm not a theater guy, but it sounds fun. I also told him I was worried that he had stopped doing things he liked and that he shouldn't stop just because he had a falling out with someone he cared about. I basically told him it was okay to still enjoy things by himself or with someone else. He admitted he actually wanted to do those things but had stopped just to spite Jack. I decided to give him an early Christmas gift and bought him some games he had been excited about but had refunded after the fight with my brother. He even convinced me to play Final Fantasy Online with him on his PS5 while he plays on PC. I admit I have no idea what I'm doing in that game since the last Final Fantasy I played was still in 2D, but he seems to enjoy watching me fail. Any advice here is welcome. Finally, we decided to take a trip to his dream destination for my birthday. I was a little bit sad because it's going to be the first time in almost 50 years that I don't celebrate a birthday with my brother, but I've got my son, and that's all that matters. So yeah, Leo is happier and less stressed about the family. Speaking of which, I think the family is finally respecting our boundaries, so that's good too. I just hope my brother can work on his marriage. I may hate what they did, but I do want him to be happy. Second update 5 months 2 weeks later. It's been a while, hasn't it? The wedding anniversary is next week, and I remember this post. I just thought I'd do one quick update for those wondering what happened. TLDR? Life's been boring. Longer update, Leo and I took a step back from the big family for a bit, but we decided to give the holidays a go with everyone. I gotta admit, I was nervous. We even had a backup plan in case things got awkward with Jack and Leo. Thankfully, it was all rather uneventful, like all the others. The biggest thing is that my brother and Leo had a proper chat on Christmas Eve. I saw them talking, and Leo went all quiet, which worried me at first. But he said it was a good talk. They're not back to how they were, not by a long shot, but they've been spending a bit of time together since then, hanging out and sometimes just playing games. It's still a bit weird for all of us, but it's progress, I guess? I know some people were worried about Leo's future, as if my brother's career was the only option, lol. But Leo's a good kid. He's been branching out and trying new things. He said he wants to become a game developer or maybe a writer. I've been reading some of his stuff, and it's pretty good, or I may be biased because he's my son and all. As for uni, he's been considering a physics degree or becoming a pilot. That's probably my fault. I introduced him to my favorite author, and now he's obsessed with time travel and alternate universes. I also, finally, convinced him to try a sport, and he's liked it so far. I even got him to watch some games with me and may drag him along to next year's World Cup. And I've always wanted to visit Mexico, so it's gonna be nice, just the two of us and all that. Jack and I have been making an effort to meet up every fortnight. It's been hard, I won't lie. Our birthday was back in October, and it was particularly rough. I know some will be angry at me, but I miss my brother. I read something that said you can love someone and not like them, and that's kind of where I'm at. Leo will always be my number one, but Jack's my brother, and it hurts to be apart, you know? On the Jack and Mary front, they're heading for a divorce. They had to be married for a year, and Jack said he'll file ASAP maybe next week or the week after. It's been tough on him. He said it wasn't just the fallout with Leo but a lot of other things too. I'm sad for him. But life goes on, doesn't it? It's mostly been pretty boring, day-to-day stuff, dealing with work, a teen, and some health-related stuff. But yeah, thanks to everyone who commented. Relevant comments. Commenter. I didn't catch on that Op and Jack are twins, mostly because I wasn't paying attention to the ages in the very beginning. I don't know if it was intentional, but the fact that he didn't emphasize it and was subtle about it, our birthday in the recent update and mentioning not spending his last one with Jack, makes it feel more real to me. Having this kind of fight with your twin, versus a regular sibling, adds another layer. Missing them feels different, I think. Also, it wasn't just Leo, Op's sister has kids too. Imagine keeping family away against your will from a ceremony you don't even want. The problem here is that Jack didn't care enough. If I were Op, I would deeply regret sticking up for Jack and Mary, insisting it was out of their hands or not their fault. Mary well and truly gaslit that kid. And for all his professions of love, Jack chose this stupid ceremony over his nibblings. I'm glad that Leo eventually realized he wasn't a priority and decided to deprioritize Jack in return. It really frustrates me that Jack did what he did and still pushed for Op to make Leo be okay with him. Commenter 2. I noticed Op mentioned that his brother had been with Mary since they were both 22 and also that she's 40 plus. So they were together for at least 18 years before getting married, only for the marriage to end in less than a year. Op said his brother mentioned that it wasn't just the fallout from the wedding that was leading to the divorce. I wonder if the other issues had been there all along. Commenter 3. I think the mother-in-law pushing for a wedding in the first place imploded everything even before she booked an adults-only resort. Those two have probably been in a we've been together forever safe relationship for several years, if not a decade, and it was the stress of it all that caused the cracks that had been there for a long time to widen and become impossible to ignore. I'm going to guess that the mother-in-law knew those cracks existed, so I imagine what we'll never know is whether her seething hatred for an innocent child was what pushed her to demand a wedding or not. Mary never learned to stand up to her mother, and she's facing the consequences of that, but damn if the mother-in-law isn't batcrap cray cray.